Hi, everybody. My name is Aubrey Warner. I am the author of the multiple choice play Who's Gonna Tell Her? And I'm here today working on the most recent draft. We're about to go into rehearsals for our world premiere at the Great Salt Lake Fringe Festival. So today I am working on I've written the introductory scene and the way that setting up the way that the show works, like the convention of the multiple choice, the sort of choose your own adventure aspects. So I've written that scene, and then the first choice that the audience has to make. And now I'm working on future choices and where that takes the character. There are two main choice trees, basically. And we're heading down one of those trees today. So I'm gonna pop on some music, and I will talk through my thoughts. If something becomes relevant, I do get in the flow often. So there might be some stretches where we're just kind of vibing and writing. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and let's get cracking. Don't do this to me. I want this to hope. So if we head back to the last scene, basically the choice is somebody asked the main character, Aubrey, out, and the option, the choice the audience has to make is, does she go out with him or does she not? So right now, we are following the yes, date him option. So that's the track that we're working on. I scrolled up here just so I could read the end of that scene. What I'm referencing here is a flowchart of all of the choices that need to be made. Let's see if I can pop that up for you. This is the flowchart that I'm looking at. So this is the introductory scene, and we're on this path here. So I'm writing this scene, yes. This is where the choice is made, and then this is the scene that follows, and then these are the scenes that branch out of that, the choices that are made, the scene that follows that. So that's what we're doing. Eating dinner would help me get rid of my yawns, but has not happened. This. So I want to take a look at what I've written before and see whether anything in here is sparking an idea. This is the original opening scene. It's the first thing I wrote for the show, actually. Originally, Guy Fieri was the moderator. He's probably going to make an appearance in the most recent version, but he's currently not the moderator. I did not realize this scene was still in the show the last time it was read. This is the scene originally. This is the original scene where she was asked out. Um, like this Muppets thing. So, the potential boyfriend asked the audience for help, and then he proposed 3 ideas, ways that he could ask her out, like what he could say. And he says that she's really into the Muppets, and he has a great idea for a couple's Halloween costume that he could pitch, because this is honestly the best couple's Halloween costume. So in the scene, he says, I've been thinking about our conversation from last week, and I've come up with the perfect Muppet couple's costume. And Aubrey says, go on. And he says, I am big, fat, ugly, bug-faced, baby-eating O'Brien, and you are Angel Marie. And if you are not familiar, I will show you. Yeah. This is big, fat, ugly, bug-faced, baby-eating O'Brien. And this is Angel Marie. I'm not going to explain the joke to you, but that's the couple's costume. So he would be big, fat, ugly, bug-faced, baby-eating O'Brien. And then Aubrey would be Angel Marie. And then she says that might be the most perfect sentence that has ever been uttered. I need to take a minute here. He says, we can make a cardboard Hispaniola. And she says, yes. And I could get a little Kermit and dress him up as Captain Smollett. I would like that. I would also field all the questions when people ask us who we are. I could make little throwing starfish with a Muppet Treasure Island poster on the backs. And then Aubrey says, or we could just put a poster on the big cardboard boat. And he says, or we could do that. Yep, keep it simple. And then she asks him about, if he already had plans for Halloween costume. He says, I can be Data as Sherlock Holmes anytime. This is way more exciting. So, I like this section. I like how flirty it is. I like how specific it is. I don't think in this exact form it will work, but I think it will go a long way toward endearing us to, well, let me look at I'm going to go back to the scene right before this. We'll read through it and I'll see whether it is, whether it does that well enough on its own. Okay, so Beardy and Aubrey stand together holding solo cups and laughing hysterically. There are sounds of a party in the background. This scene should be bright, lighthearted, and flirty throughout. Aubrey says, how was that so terrible? I literally fed you the joke. Okay. The formula is this. I started a new business. And Beardy says, you did? No, that's the first part of the joke. That's the setup. And Beardy says, I started a new business. Aubrey, yes. And then I say, oh, really? What do you do? Beardy, we do camping with models. It's intense. Aubrey, no, you don't. You skipped a part. You have to set up the pun first, then I respond again, asking how it's going, and then you say the pun. Beardy says, we take models camping. Aubrey, so I say, that's interesting. How's it going? And then the punchline. It's pretty, you say the pun. Yeah. Beardy, okay, from the top. Aubrey, go for it. Beardy, I started a new business. Well, that's cool. What do you do? We take models. No, wait. We run a wilderness camp for models. Interesting. How's it going? It's pretty intense. He makes a dumb face. This elicits a huge laugh from Aubrey. Aubrey says, see, now you're getting it. Beardy, did you come up with this on your own? Aubrey, no, I got it from a behind-the-scenes thing from when David Tennant was on the Catherine Tate show, which is a true thing. I gotta turn this headphones. Beauty says, so you mastered the art of by observation. Aubrey says, I'm good at picking up useless skills. Do you have any? Baking banana bread. Aubrey says, first of all, how dare you go 5 entire months of association without giving me a single loaf? Second of all, when the zombie apocalypse hits, banana bread is going to be worth its weight in gold. Beardy, is that how I can ingratiate myself to my prepper neighbor? Aubrey, your rakish good looks didn't already do that? Beardy, I don't think I'm his type. I don't own a single weapon or can of raw wheat berries. Aubrey, oh really? The only thing in my basement is 5,000 cans of raw wheat berries. Do you want me to go get you some? Beardy, I'd love that, but I didn't bring a truck. Just put it on my Christmas list. Aubrey, if you don't have a handful of loose, uncracked hard red in your stocking this year, then magic is dead and there is no joy in the world. Beardy, I don't know. I feel pretty joyful right now. You must be magic. Aubrey acts weird about this. Beardy notices and changes the subject. Also, good news, I started a new business. Aubrey, oh yeah? What do you do? We fish bits of tangled string out of holes in the ground. That seems very niche. How's it going? Not well. They both laugh. Aubrey, boom! That's how it's done! Beardy, I had a great teacher. She's really cool. I think you'd get along. You have a lot in common. Aubrey, you should introduce me to her sometime. Beardy, I was actually gonna ask her out. Do you think she'd say yes? Aubrey, tonight? Like, right now? Beardy, I mean, yeah. You're one of the coolest people I've ever met. I like you. I want to spend more time with you. Do you want to date me? And that's when it changes and Aubrey asks the audience, should she do it? Should she not? And then if we go back and look at the... Maybe he quotes an even more obscure Muppet movie. an embarrassment. Sorry, I was just thinking about the Halloween, that the events upon which this show is very loosely based happened. And whether or not my boyfriend at the time dressed up, I can't imagine he didn't. He was very much probably still is, a very much let's get dressed up at every opportunity kind of guy. I do not remember. I know I was Mabel from Gravity Falls, but I don't remember. I just remember him. The first date not the first date. One of the first things we did together was we went to see an evening of Edgar Allan Poe, which was like a bunch of Poe stories that had been compiled into sort of a show, more like a staged reading type deal. And I remember that I was dressed as Mabel for that show, but I think he was just wearing a shirt and tie. And we went to the Halloween party, the ward Halloween party, basically immediately after that. It's not relevant to the story I'm writing at all, but, you know. Anyway, Muppet Steak Manhattan. I don't know whether this is wacky enough. Although, the other things that I've written aren't all wacky. There are some normally things happening. this is page 17. Maybe we can just lift it, because I do like it. Okay. that. I like the way that it flows. I like the way it shows them interacting with each other and gets him excited about something that isn't necessarily her. This is 5 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 pages, really. Then 5. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, 13. I have to keep an eye on page count because I have a very strict time limit. And I just have to make sure. Okay. Because it's not going to take a full 13 minutes. I don't have a pencil with me. That's important information, so I'm going to put it in my notes tab. Opening a why is she like this? And then will you date me? Yes. And then 13 pages. Okay. We might have spent too long on this. I will see during rehearsals, but we might, for time's sake, we might need to cut some of this down. So. Yes, and then now what? That's 13 pages. Okay. Alrighty. So, next on the decision tree, these are the scenarios that she gets put in that make her think there might be something wrong with her. So, one set of scenarios needs to revolve around holding hands. One set of scenarios needs to revolve around cuddling or lap sits, sitting on the lap. Don't make me do it. And So I have, yeah, I have in here that the yes leads to either a scenario that deals with holding hands or a scenario that deals with cuddling / lap sitting. And then there's ABC, ABC on each side, and all of those lead to a kissing, like a scenario that deals with kissing. So in this, if I'm following this, the yes needs to set up the choice for either hold hands or cuddle. Oh, that's the case. Oh. Is missing an indent. Okay. So now I've shortened that scene just a little bit. 3 lines makes a difference. Doesn't seem like it would, but it makes a difference in terms of the flow, especially in such a short scene that's a large percentage. Okay, and I kind of already set this up. Dusty in here. Sorry about that. So, the scenarios I wrote down that might have to deal with holding hands, and if we've set up the Muppets, this might, puppetry might be the way to go. So, scenarios that you might be in that would involve your hands somehow, and give Aubrey a way to not engage in the activity, or to engage in it, get freaked out, and then unengage in the activity. So, say, for instance, they are being pirates, and she accidentally cuts off her hand. Then she no longer has a hand that can to hold. And then she would have to deal with that for the rest of the show. Or they do something where they make puppets, and then she sort of always wears the puppet after that, because you can't hold a hand if you're doing a Muppet style puppet with hand rods. Super glue her hands together, sandpaper mittens, long sharp nails, pulling a parachute ripcord if they are, say, skydiving. Permanent knife hands, or turn into a T-Rex so that he can't reach her hands. So would this be a separate scene then? Because he asks her out. She says yes, and then they make plans. So then, based on the plan, something needs to happen that leads to either a hand-holding scenario or a cuddling/lap-sitting scenario. This is where I think some devising would be good. ABC choices, and then for the kiss scene, I can use some of what I already have, and it will inherently be more wacky because in this version the consequences stick. So one of the options in the first scene, the very, very first scene, leads to one of the characters getting caught under a pile of all the other characters, and they hurt their wrist, and it ruins their Olympic dueling career. And so for the rest of the show, if that option is selected, they wear a wrist brace. So if, for example, Aubrey decides to make puppetry, to make puppets, or to carve a pumpkin, and she accidentally loses a limb, then for the rest of the show she, is a puppet or has no limb. I kind of feel like it needs to be a different setup, but if that's the case, does this scene need to be shorter? Because we have the yes scene already, where Megan says, you have to date him. Now what? Okay, so if we do keep this, then this will go, okay. Here, so it's in the scene. Helps if you assign it to aligns to specific characters. then that just foreshadows. So, okay. To come up with a different private side. Okay. And maybe, how many pages is that? One, two. Oh. It's only 2 pages. That's not so bad. Okay. Okay. That's not too long. Okay. Had to read it through again a couple more times just to, figure it out. So, actually gonna go. I think I have some ideas in my notes. There was a completely different version at some point where Megan, Aubrey's sister, had all sorts of crazy, like, she would just show up in a scene for a couple minutes doing something totally crazy, like she's clearly just been in surgery, is in the middle of surgery and is like, what do you want? I'm busy. Or she's a Liam Neeson hunter. Long story. I'm not going to get into it, even if it does end up in the show. You know, just like wild stuff. I think I have a list of it in here. Dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. Although it might be written on a piece of paper somewhere. Discomfort. Oh, I could not figure out what these lyrics are for. This is another Muppet reference. I thought it would be the best present in the world to give my then boyfriend everything in the song Everything You Want, I think is what it's called, from Muppets Most Wanted. And apparently I was running with that idea at some point, and I pasted those lyrics in here. I don't remember what I was going to do for Thingy Thing. Anyway, just like little representations of things in a box. It was going to be funny. Yeah, I think I have those just written on a piece of paper somewhere on notes from a previous feedback session, which I do not have here because I did not think I would be looking that far back. Solo activities, finale. Yeah, okay. That's nothing. That's not it. So she could be Liam Neeson hunter. She could be... I mean, I kind of like the idea of her oiling a bear trap. Where does someone else go? Straight to the S scene. But then the others are identical. Okay. I think. For simplicity's sake, they probably have to be. So the two tracks you've got, yes, date him, no, don't. if you say no, don't, then you have two further options. Date nobody, and then she goes off and does a bunch of solo activities, or date somebody else. And if they vote date somebody else, it goes back to the scene where he asks her out, but it's a different actor. And the initial scene where she gets asked out is going to be different, but then when she says yes to that, the hand-holding, lap-sitting, and kissing scenes are going to be identical. Just the other of the two actors is going to play, because there are 4 actors in this. So there's Megan and Aubrey, and then there are 2 other. One in the script currently, they're named Beardy and Moderator, just left over from previous drafts. So I'm going to give them different names. And then if you say yes, date him, that's Beardy. If you say no, date someone else, that's the Moderator, the other actor who goes through this. So, oh, I was in the middle of writing a thing. That's why. No. Excuse me. A toy bear trap? A toy bear trap. I'm glad that they exist, though, and I can just... I don't need to buy it, like, try to craft one. I can just buy something like this. That's good to know. No. Toy bear... That is so wild to me. 10 inches, thank you. What is this? What are these toys? Who is this for? It snaps? WTF. Alright, I'm sending this to myself. This is absurd. Oh, it's exactly the same thing. Is that Idaho 3D printing? Yep. Okay, so it's the same. $44.99, $44.99. Great. I shall send this to myself. My back. $5 to ship. That's $50. By July 3rd. Alright. Well, that's interesting. I'm not going down this rabbit hole because I have a modicum of self-restraint at the moment. So as much as I want to keep exploring, this is for the voting mechanism. We're using little light balls. I'm going to have them in a bag, and then you pull out a light ball to vote. And I'm getting a Braille label maker so we can put A, B, and C in Braille on the balls, so that people can, if we have anybody who is blind or vision impaired, they'll be able to participate. so helpful. I wouldn't count Antelope Island as a beach. The North Pacific. I'm gonna say, 700 miles. Oh, no, I don't like it. I need to look at those notes. Well, I could have sworn in this session that I did more note taking, but apparently I did not. It was a long session with my creative partner. Tame a mountain lion. But I think that might be kissing related. So, got more down here. I do not. My philosophy basically is that if I get stuck for more than a couple of minutes, it means I'm going in the wrong direction. Because shouldn't take that long, shouldn't be that hard. So and sometimes, I mean, it's not super straightforward. Sometimes it is flowing and I'm still going in the wrong direction. But usually I find that block happens, that feeling of block happens when I'm just not going in the right direction. So it could also be that I am very tired because it is 4:17 a.m. and I was up very late last night, and you know, that affects your ability to think clearly. So I'm trying to think of a scenario that Aubrey wouldn't choose, that somebody else watching would choose for her, that ends up with her holding his hand. And it isn't just should I hold his hand, it is which of these dates should we go on, or on this date do we do A, B, or C? So maybe let's work backwards. So hang on, that's what I was trying to do when I was brainstorming. Trying to think about, like, trying to use my own experience as much as possible, and just thinking about the fact that, like, I actually enjoy holding hands. It does not freak me out to an extent. I don't like body heat, so I don't like it being warmed up by somebody else's hand, or they hold my hand and their hand is already warm. I'm not a fan of that. But I did actually enjoy, that's one of the few aspects of a relationship that I did enjoy, was holding hands. But I'm also trying to convey how uncomfortable I was being in a relationship seemingly without any explanation. Like, at the time, I had no idea. I didn't even know that asexual was a thing you could be. So I'm caught in this place in between, drawing from my own experience, and the first draft I did was fairly accurate, fairly true to, obviously I did embellish some things and move the timeline around a bit, but it was a fairly accurate representation of what really happened. So I'm somewhere between there and wacky, weird, fun adventure, because I don't want this to be super existential on Aubrey's part. I want it to be a fun thing to experience, because coming out stories, queer stories, are so often fraught, and I don't think it needs to be that way. So I want to tell a joyful story, so I want it to be wacky and fun wherever possible. So, trying to convey the idea of not being comfortable in a relationship in a wacky way that also is true to how it feels, so that it's recognizable to other people who might be aro ace who are watching this, or queer in general. I like turning into a T-Rex. So if we were to work backwards from turning into a T-Rex, and then, like I said, the consequences stick, so she's just a T-Rex until you go back and make a different choice. So what would make her turn into a T-Rex? A spell, a potion, time machine mishap. Puzzle this out on a different page just so that it's everything you need. I'll make your dreams come true. time machine mishap turns into a T-Rex. So in order for there to be a time machine mishap, they need to be let's see, archaeological dig, or where else would one encounter a time machine? Museum. Missed a vowel there somewhere. Museum crawl. Antiquing. It's always fun to have like 2 options seem outlandish and 1 seem normal, and then you pick it and it's the outlandish one. So antiquing, and they find it has to be something that is easily transportable, because this is a fringe performance, so we have very little wing space, and we also need to be able to pack it into a suitcase. So a small object that's timey-wimey. Not a watch. We're not doing that. It's too cliche. And not like a portal portkey thing either. It's got to be like a thing. I'm thinking about in the Ninja Turtles movie, how I believe, wasn't there a scientist who used a, no, they just made a gross like pizza smoothie with the egg beater. No. I mean, I can buy one of these locally. So. What about... And I can just antique it myself. Yeah. Get one with a wooden handle. So there's the potential for sound, and which adds texture to a scene, which is why I am drawn to an egg beater specifically. There's also like that whirring sound, and the idea that, you know, the faster you spin it, the farther back you go, or whatever. It looks like it's pretty easy to get a hold of them, so cool. So they find an egg beater. Gene splicing time machine mishap. What would be a gene splicer? How would you know it was a gene splicer? I feel like that's too... Okay. Maybe they're just holding a VHS copy of Jurassic Park. And the time machine gets confused. It seems more like magic. I'm not necessarily opposed to magic. I think I want it to be more literal than that. So there's that museum in Provo where they do, it's a life science museum, and I don't know if it's connected to the museum, but they do, there's like genetic research happening at BYU. Yeah, they've got, yeah, a cryogenic collection. Ooh. Okay. So, a cryogenic collection mishap. Okay, so Bean Museum. Cryogenic. Oh, there's a Y. Does it turn her into a T-Rex, or does she turn him into a T-Rex? Very helpful. Cryogenic collection, and that's it. No information about it. In the reptiles and amphibians collection, the last time I went, which is in like, I don't know, 1998, 1999 maybe, there were like two-headed snakes, conjoined turtles. They were not alive. They were just like in a display case. It's kind of a weird museum. Lichens of BYU campus. Why insects? Yeah, like I said, kind of a weird museum. Just I think it's geared toward children in a way that most museums aren't necessarily. And it is, if you're not from Utah, when you're in Utah, that is like the place to go on a field trip as a child. The Bean Museum or the Living Science Museum. The Living History? No. One There's a dinosaur museum at Thanksgiving Point. It's those two. Okay. I like that. So, Bean Museum, there's a cryogenic mishap. So the sequence of events would be they go to the museum. He holds her hand. He gets too sweaty. I don't know. She plunges her hand into cryogenic storage device to cool it off. Does he apologize? What happens? Obviously, it's a bad idea. And then okay, other option. Sandpaper mitten, pulling a parachute ripcord, permanent knife hands. Puppetry, supergluing them together. She would be holding her hands together for a very long time. This is the beginning of the show. Let me look at this flowchart again. So, supergluing her hands together. Then she has to do the lapsit. Maybe that's the only hand holding. And the option is, do they hold... gotta, yeah, set up the, okay. No, we need to set it up, and there would be three different ways that holding hands could turn out. This is one of them. Oops, you turn your boyfriend into a T-Rex. Okay, and then the lapsit would be different. So if she super glued her hands together, then the lapsit would be done with glued hands. The first kiss scene would be done with glued hands. The you don't like me scene with super glued hands. Am I broken scene, try again scene. And then go back and they're undone. So she would have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenes with her hands super glued together. Okay, so where do you encounter like a ton of super glue? Crafting, model making, super glue factory. His uncle works at a super glue factory. They're gonna go visit him. Model making. Just Google it. Perler beads. Super glue. Aha! Reddit! My bestie! What kinds of DIY project crafts or general fixes have you used super glue for? Anything unconventional? Are you? Maybe I'll get some inspiration for new ways to utilize this adhesive wonder gel around the house. Saya fixed. Yeah. I use it for so many things, it's hard to pick a specific mention. As far as improving the efficacy or the efficiency, lay down a little layer of baking powder, drip the super glue onto it. It'll soak in and make it super tough. Great for filling in cracks or if you have to build up a shape once it's done. DIY crafts with super glue from the Adhesive Guru. Assorted craft materials, scissors, paints and brushes, beads, rhinestones, and other embellishments, keychain rings, photo frames, flower pots, magnets, cardstock or decorative paper, glassware, hair accessories, fashion accessories, and Christmas ornaments. Making Christmas ornaments for the tree festival of trees. option. Handmade jewelry. Upcycled flower pots. Custom magnets. Creative bookmarks. Decorative glassware. Phone stand. Not really a thing back in the day. Statement wall art. Select a canvas or wooden panel as your base. Arrange and glue various materials like buttons, fabric, or paper cutouts onto the surface. Create a design or pattern that speaks to your artistic vision. Allow it to dry completely before displaying it on your wall. This is so helpful. I am, in fact, going to take a screenshot of this because it is so helpful. Homemade Christmas ornaments. Embellish hair accessories. Unique home decor. Vases, candle holders, or frames with shells, pebbles, or mosaic tiles. Create a decorative centerpiece using driftwood, artificial flowers, and superglue. Personalize plain coasters or trinket dishes with paint, fabric, or decoupage. Has nothing to do with superglue. You do not want to use superglue in decoupage. Stylish fashion accessories. Customize plain tote bags with fabric appliques, patches, or studs. Fabric or leather earrings. Brooches and lapel pins. By attaching beads, buttons, or charms with superglue. I think I'm going to go with this. I think I'm going to go with Festival of Trees ornament making mishap because it's Utah specific. It's weird. Okay. So, how does that happen? Festival of Trees service project making ornaments for ward members. Holds her hand during the instructions. Something about feeling... So it gets too sweaty in the Bean Museum. She feels trapped in this one. So... very specific. She can't get up to go get a drink or whatever. Awkwardly move to craft table together. They let go to get set up. He tries to hold her hand again, and she would rather glue her hands together than be tied to him. So she's still stuck. It's just she'd rather be stuck by herself. Okay. Then super glued her hands together. museum, festival of trees, service project, or skydiving. Which one would you pick? Everybody's gonna pick skydiving if those are the options. Sandpaper mitten, too similar to Festival of Trees. Long, sharp nails. Pulling parachute ripcord. I think that's the best of the ones that we have. Okay. So... skydiving. So, well, if they're with instructors, who would have to be Megan and the other? Oh, that's a funny image. Holding hands for courage before jumping out of the plane. Plague plane. And then holding hands for courage before jumping out of a plane. I don't care whether this is realistic. I do care. I don't know how much I care. It's not gonna be... Oh, it's gonna be Megan. Megan is gonna be the skydiving instructor, not a different character as played by Megan. It's just gonna be Megan. Okay. Jump out. Then they hold both of their hands. Let's see, at this point they're 3 months into their relationship, so... Would you even go skydiving in December? Hold up. I don't care. Care a little bit. you can go skydiving in the winter. Okay, so there is the instinct to run away, which turns into you can't even touch me. There's feeling stuck, which turns into gluing hands together. And then there is just like the butterflies of it, which turns into just jumped out of a plane. Okay, great. They jump. The boyfriend tries to grab the other hand too, and then cool. Yeah. Don't overthink it. Works for me. Okay, so then the cuddling / lap sitting. Nope. Keep from a plane. Did that over here. Set belongings on fire for warmth instead of cuddling together. Which could be a shipwreck situ. Could be what would cause you to sit on someone's lap? Crowded bus. Expensive plane tickets. We just did an airplane. Holding hands. Then we have I think I didn't. Stop. Just scroll. Thank you. Grossed up by PDA, which I kind of already used, so I'm gonna temporarily strike through. The one that gives strike through? Alright, well, I guess I'll highlight it, because I already did it. Okay. Use this one in the opener. Then I used... No. Sort of. ga, 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 ga. So one time at a party, there was limited seating. We were sitting down to play a game, and my boyfriend at the time asked me to. He didn't ask me with his words. He gestured as I was looking around for a place to sit that I could sit upon his lap. And the immediate rage that built up inside me, it was so irrational. It was inhuman how much the thought of that made me want to set things on fire. So I guess, yeah, lighting belongings on fire. Since what else? If you're really embarrassed, you might want to sink to the bottom of the ocean. Or just turns into a mermaid. Lighting belongings on fire for warmth. Breaking plates? That seems more like a hand-holding thing. Like a rage room. There's no reason to be lap-sitting during a rage room. Also, I don't know if those were a thing yet in 2011, 2012, 2012. Let's see. Get distance between us. How do we get distance between us? There is running a race. But how would you... What lap sitting doesn't fit into running a race at all. So, again, public transportation gets you far away from somebody, but you might need to be in close proximity to each other. So there is... Well, but I don't want everything to be a hard escape, especially because I had 2 of those in the opening scene. Jumping off of a moving scooter and also going boneless on the couch. Those are both in the opening scene. So I don't want... And the skydiving, the ripcord disconnect feels like a hard escape. So there's a scenario that the students at Snow came up with during a devising session that we did with this piece. So I'm going to go back and look at that recording because it started on a boat and it ended with them stranded on a beach somewhere around a bonfire. So I think that has promise because on a boat. So boat to shipwreck or like diving mishap. So many mishaps. Oh, or overestimated animal friendship. Beach at night. Light belongings on fire for warmth / visibility. Okay, yeah, and then I'll look at that recording to see the absolutely wild sequence that they came up with, which was pretty great. And I think that is hidden, but if it makes it in, this makes it into the show, I will definitely take what they did and share that portion of the devising event that we did. So it was pretty great. Okay, lighting things on fire. At a party. Melt. Crawl into a hole. Spelunking. It's lap sitting / cuddling. Beach at night, like that belongs on fire for warmth versus visibility. At a party, at a sporting event. Not enough tickets at a sporting event. Not enough tickets. I think what made me the most upset in that scenario was not necessarily that he asked me to sit on his lap. That's like, you can ask. The fact that when I vehemently shook my head no, that he was disappointed. And I know it's not fair of me to have some I cannot control. But yeah, that was I think the panic of, oh no, he wants me to sit on his lap. And then when I told him no and he like puppy dogged it, that is what filled me with rage. Was like, sir, I'm an adult. I do not sit on laps. And you know, some people, it's totally fine. I am not that person. Not enough tickets at the sporting event, or a monsoon, like a freak monsoon. Although this is, oh, we can go into the spring for this, and then it's summertime for the kissing one. Okay, so spring, yeah, sporting event would be probably soccer. It's like the only, or basketball, but that's inside. Freak weather event at a sporting event. I guess minor league baseball happens in the spring. And there is a minor league team in Utah, soon to be 2. Nobody goes. I don't know why we have 2. Money laundering. It's probably money laundering. For legal purposes, that was a joke. Sporting event, not enough tickets, or be difficult to clean up. A windstorm, doing something chivalrous, giving up his seat for somebody else. I think it has to be lap sitting specifically because we sort of did cuddling in the opening. So lap sitting specifically, lighting something on fire. Yeah, we'll do lap sitting specifically. What's really annoying? Because I like that these are sort of a range of emotions. Is like, well, it's not really a range of emotions. This one is hard because there were many instances of hand holding, and so I felt a wide range of emotions when it came to that. But because it was easier to control the distance between us, there weren't a lot of cuddling or lap sitting opportunities because I didn't know that I wasn't interested, but it felt really uncomfortable, so I didn't like to do it. Watching movies. Because I don't know if this is your experience, but in Orem, Utah in 2012, as an LDS person who was active in the church and attended, like all of my friends were too, all of our parties were very chaste, so it was a lot of movie nights. We don't drink, and therefore we don't do a lot of the activities associated with drinking, like karaoke or going out or whatever. So there are a bunch of kids in their 20s, and we just like go to each other's houses, play board games, and watch movies, eat crepes, that sort of thing. And I was doing a lot of that. And so when I was with my ex-boyfriend, we went to a lot of these together. So there were a lot of opportunities to sit close to each other. Oh, there was blanket sharing. There was one party specifically where we were watching a movie at somebody's house, and there was one big blanket that everybody on the couch was using, and my then boyfriend wanted me to sit next to him under the blanket, and I was like, ¿por qué? I don't think so. And that wasn't necessarily, oh, so this might be useful. That wasn't necessarily about being uncomfortable in the position, because everybody was under the blanket. Like I said, it was really chaste. Nothing untoward was going to happen. But it was, for me, the idea that other people were participating in something that felt intimate, meaning they were aware of it, and I was acutely aware of what they would think of us in this situation. And, like, I was really uncomfortable with the idea of somebody else perceiving intimacy, perceiving me, in an intimate relationship. So, let's follow this thread. Perceiving me in an intimate relationship, don't want to be seen with them. I wouldn't want to be seen with them. We wouldn't want to be seen if we were hiding from something. Hiding from a T-Rex. Which, we could do if we were doing, that could be a time machine mishap. Hiding from aliens. Hiding from aliens, hiding from the law, hiding from an animal of some kind. This could be where we meet the mountain lion. I had it under kissing. But we could be hiding from the mountain lion. So we could go hiking. There we go. Hiking mishap. It's all mishaps. Hiking. Hiding from a mountain lion. Okay. So, okay, so they start up the canyon too late. They lose the trail. Peak twilight time, so excellent place for a dumb Twilight joke. They hear a mountain lion. You know what's rad? I live in a place where there are mountain lions. It's pretty rad. I mean, it's not rad when they're in your backyard, or you hear them screaming at night when you're night gardening, but, you know, other than that, it's pretty cool. Or one time there was this a junior high. I wasn't in the junior high anymore. I had moved on, but it was the one I used to go to. They shut down because there was a cougar in a tree just hanging out outside the school, and they were like, well, we can't let any of the children outside, so we all just have to wait for wildlife control to come take them away. So that's what they did. They're not usually a problem. Use the trail in the twilight. They hear a mountain lion huddle in a bush. In a bush, forced to lapse it, takes her chances with the cougar. Wrestle ensues. Great. Okay. One more. So I didn't want to be perceived. I like this because of the intensity of the feelings in this one, because these are relatively tame, but the stakes are much higher in this one. So maybe it should be an escalation. Yeah, so we'll do holding hands and then lap sitting. So it'll be an escalation. This is like relatively normal. Some wacky things happen, but the stakes are relatively low. And then with these two, like being stranded on an island and encountering a mountain lion are much more intense feelings. And the relationship is progressing. So as the relationships progress and expectations progress, the feeling becomes more intense. I like that. Those are the only two things I had on this list for lap sitting were leaping from a plane and setting belongings on fire for warmth. So what else was I feeling? I was really upset when we were watching a show of some kind just on my laptop on the couch, and we had this it was like a down love seat. It was kind of a chair and a half type deal, or it was not as wide as a love seat, but not a chair, somewhere in between. So there was a little bit of room on either side of us when we sat down. We didn't have to sit right next to each other. You could kind of fit 3 people on it, but it wasn't super comfortable with 3 people, but there was plenty of room for 2. So we were sitting on this thing where there was plenty of room, and he sat close to me, which is understandable, but it still makes me angry. This is just a sign. If you're listening, hi, if this is how you feel, you might be asexual. That he sat close to me so that he could sit close to me, and also so he could see the screen better, because it, a little laptop screen. And we were watching, I think it was Jim Henson's Creature Shop Challenge, but it might have been something else. It was a challenge show of some kind, and we were just sitting next to each other, and I was very aware of how close he was to me, and I think he was trying to get closer to me intimately, like emotionally, and he was trying to do that through physical proximity, which often works. It's not with me. So I was like hyper aware of it and uncomfortable with how close he was sitting to me, because like, dude, you could sit literally anywhere. Why are you so close to me? And then he put his head on my shoulder and he was just like cuddling in, we were just watching TV together, and I never put my head on his shoulder, so I think he was like, are we gonna, come on. I was just comfortable, and he was happy and expressing that in a normal, healthy way. And again, I was so angry and annoyed because I interpreted it at the time as the man's job is to be cuddled. The woman's job is to decide when it's time to cuddle. Obviously. So that's what I thought I was angry about, was like, excuse me, I am supposed to be the delicate one. And I didn't want him to be more manly or anything. It just felt like it was unfair of him to make the decision for me, to make that contact and, try to move our relationship in that direction. And I was like, who gave you the right, sir? Me. I gave him the right. It was when I entered into the relationship. I did. So, why are you so close to me when we have all this space around us? In outer space. Still springtime, so we wouldn't have any fairs unless we went to well, no, that's too difficult to do on this stage anyways. Like I was thinking the zero gravity thing where you stand and then it spins really fast and you get like sucked up onto the wall and you can't move. I don't know how that ride is allowed. It seems like it would be real dangerous. Did we ever go to Lagoon together? Can't do Lagoon. Also, I don't think we did. Why are you so close to me? There's lots of space. You could sit anywhere. This was before assigned seats in movie theaters. Or it was at the beginning of assigned seats in movie theaters. Space. Negative space. I want to get this done. If I can figure this out, then I can call it a night. It is very late. I mean, it's toward the end of the night for me. In a field? Corn maze? Oh, this is springtime again. We did hiking, tulip fields, photography class, I think space center mission, space camp, G-Force. What else? Like a race car. So not his thing. Nor mine, but just the idea of him like taking me to a racetrack is very funny. 3-hour tour joke in the boat one. I promise you that. I promise there'll be no Gilligan's Island references. None whatsoever. Ooh, I want to get it done, but I'm so tired. Space outside. Nighttime astronomy. Planetarium. Laser show. Seems more like a hand-holding thing. Also, steaks. Planetarium. Hard to do on this stage. Okay. On the moon. Something space related. Mountain. We have the ocean. Something sky related. Not skydiving, because we already did that. Something else you can do in the sky. Not flying lessons. Satellite. Kayaking. Nighttime kayaking. Boarding of the ocean is a different option. It's probably not kayaking. It's too close to whatever would get them on the boat. Something sky related. Or something should they get abducted by aliens? Or some other alien encounter. I think I gotta skip this one and come back to it. I didn't know this one was gonna be so hard. But the idea that we're going for is, why are you so close to me when we have all this room? Okay. Kissing. Had some more things in here. I know I said I'd call it a night, but since I didn't get that one done, kissing, taming the mountain lion, putting the head in the mouth, replace head with a balloon. There is no mouth. The mouth is a portal to hell, but you find that out too late. Eat mothballs. Excellent options. Such a good job. So proud of me. Mouth is a portal to hell, but you find out too late. This is where things get a little more intense emotionally. So like the stakes are high in the lap sitting in terms of like physical stakes are high. Emotional stakes are high in terms of kissing. But I don't want to bring it all the way back. It's like at the end of this version. This is where it all began. And what I mean by that is I had the idea for this sort of multiple choice storytelling when thinking about this experience one day. Just sort of came to me. I am going to publish the original short story that I wrote about this in advance of the show coming out. So, philematology, the study of kissing. Though peculiarly, the people who study kissing, I'll scroll this way so I can actually see it, aren't philematologists, they're osculologists. That's because the act of kissing is called osculation. Now, osculologists have figured out that when two people play tongue hockey, a whole host of chemical reactions take place. The brain releases serotonin, which is the happy hormone, dopamine, which is your internal reward system, and oxytocin, which is known as the love hormone. These neurotransmitters travel along your synapses and affect your blood pressure, heighten your senses, and even increase your ability to create a detailed memory. A particularly good kiss can permanently affect your neural pathways, releasing this cocktail of natural uppers every time you think of it. That kind of impact is pretty powerful. This was, again, from when Food Network reigned supreme, and when I had a monologue at the beginning of every scene. Anthropologists tell us that people have been chasing this high throughout recorded history. Hundreds of foods and food combinations have been said to produce similar effects or to heighten arousal so that your partner will want to kiss you. We call those foods aphrodisiacs. Now, there's some debate about whether aphrodisiacs exist, so let's look at... Turn the TV off. And then, Megan and Aubrey has a moment because she was asked to a New Year's Eve party. This is the closest to what happened in real life. And they debate whether she's gonna go to the party. Gee, I would love to tell you what to do, but unfortunately, someone isn't telling me what you want, so I can't give you any advice. What is wrong with you? And then Aubrey says, I don't know, I've never felt like this before. Megan says, are you in love? And Aubrey says, I hope not. You hope you're not in love? I hope this isn't what love feels like. I hate it. It feels like a panic attack. Megan says, okay, chill out. And then, it's not just a party, it's a ritual, it's an expectation. At midnight, he'll be standing there looking at me with his stupid brown eyes, and he'll lean in, and I'll have to kiss him. Megan, have to? Aubrey, finally kiss him. Megan, yes, you probably will. Aubrey, I will no longer be a member of the Virgin Lips Club. Megan, great, you can save some money on your annual dues. Would it be weird to have this much more grounded, realistic scene kind of in the middle, or does it give it weight? Okay. most of this probably still works, but let me pull up just a sec. Let me pull up the thing I wrote, the short story. Something went wrong. No. Better have all my stuff saved. Okay. Oh, I thought it had all gone. Oh my gosh. Okay. Sorry. I thought I had just lost everything I had worked on for the last 2 hours. I didn't. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. We're all good. Now, go here instead. Thank you. Oh, wait. Actually, it is on that first account. Is there a PDF version of it? Okay. I guess not. Okay. Pull this back up so you can see it. This is the piece that I wrote. This is the final version of the piece that I originally wrote, which I refined in a creative writing class. It is now titled Allosexual Competency Exam, which is just like a different way of, doing a multiple choice story. Instead of one that is interactive, this is like the written two-dimensional version of the story. So we'll skip ahead to the... Okay. The sort of climax of it. Number 7. He texts you on New Year's Eve with an invitation to a friend's party. He can be there at 8 o'clock to pick you up. You, A, tell him you know what tonight is about and you can't explain it, but you'd rather hold your hand on a hot stove than put your mouth on his mouth. B, spend an hour pacing your apartment, running kissing drills in your head, imagining his hand in your hair, trying to parse where the joy kicks in and whether that cancels out the heart palpitations. Still unsure, you tell him yes. C, hibernate until February. 8. Number 8. It's 6:30 p.m. You've written and deleted 15 texts explaining why you don't want to go. With fingernails clawing at the inside of your skull, you finally tell him you're not up to a party tonight and ask if he wants to have dinner instead. He says ingredients. While at the store, you A, buy enough letter candles to spell out please don't. B, fake your death using a freezer full of pork and the $350 you have in checking and steer clear of. C, buy stuff to make fajitas like a normal fucking person. Number 9. You dance around each other in the yellow light of your kitchen, chopping onions and sautéing peppers while your roommate looks for recordings of the Times Square celebration. You watch the minutes slip past, your panic curling in the air like steam from your simmering chest. 11:59. Your roommate starts the video, and half of New York is screaming in your living room. 5. He places his hand gently on the small of your back. 4. Your stomach drops as he turns his head. 3. He leans in. 2. He whispers, "Can we step outside?" Your neck burns. You A. Just kiss him already. It's been 3 months. What are you waiting for? B. Say okay and hold your breath as you follow him to the porch. C. Smash a bottle over his head and use his blood to scrawl a seal of Solomon across your lips. Number 10. The parking lot is teeming with neighbors drunkenly lighting off fireworks. Under the porch light, his hand follows the familiar path down your arm, from wrist to palm to fingers. Your flickering shadows connect. He asks if he can kiss you. A dozen instances of his kindness, his sense of humor, and his compassion flash through your mind, illuminating all the reasons you should want this. You hesitate, and he squeezes your hand, a gentle encouragement. You A. Give in to the romance of the moment and let him sweep you off your feet. B. Spontaneously combust. C. Swallow hard against the inexplicable fear until you finally manage to say no. You see the confused disappointment in his face as he turns to leave, and you stand still, breathing in the sulfur air. This page intentionally left blank. So that is the portion that is about this specifically. This experience where he asked me to go to a New Year's Eve party, and I knew he was going to want to kiss me at midnight, and I knew I did not want that. And I told him I couldn't go to the party. He came to my house. This is all, like, almost exactly what happened. And he was disappointed. He was disappointed that it didn't happen. And, yeah, it had been a while. It had been a few months, and it was just... Anyway. I came in here to see... lap-sitting kissing... I don't know. Whether there was anything in the options that I gave here that made sense. I think the only one really...
This message is brought to you by Apple Card. Apply for Apple Card today and start earning up to 3% daily cash back on everyday purchases. And that daily cash can even grow automatically when you open a high-yield savings account through Apple Card. What are you waiting for?
So impressed with how long 3 hours is. And I'm impressed that there were 0 ads throughout that. Great. Good job, Ambient Worlds. Check them out. I really like them for studying and writing and stuff. I think the only one that is calling to me at the moment is this one. Smash a bottle over his head and use his blood to scrawl a seal of Solomon across your lips. Because of the idea that, this is like, it feels unholy, but not in a shameful way. Just like, that is, to me, feels the most accurate within this, like the thing that might fit here the best. Smash a bottle over his head and use his blood to scrawl a seal of Solomon across your lips. However, I think that would be difficult with the amount of time we have and the fact that basically right after this, there will be... That's the sound of the air conditioning kicking on. The reset scene. She has to go back to the beginning and try all over again. Okay. But that idea of, like, causing mild harm, right? Again, it's just the intensity of it. Because it, to an allosexual person, to somebody who doesn't feel this way, or I guess even, like, just a straight person, who doesn't feel this way, it seems like it's not a big deal, just like, you just kiss him and then it's fine. And you might like it and you might not. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it again. But everybody knows my email address now. But it feels to me, on the other end of the spectrum, like something that would end the world. Which is why the portal to hell, your mouth is a portal to hell, but you realized it too late. Don't think we have a lot of time to make that happen. Okay. Well, on that intriguing note, I'm going to call it a night. Thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to go eat some cereal and think about something else for a couple of minutes. And then I will probably leave it alone for the night while I go to sleep. But I will come back to this tomorrow and hopefully figure this out. And then I am, if I get the cuddling and the kissing, You Don't Like Me is going to be fairly similar. Am I Broken is going to be fairly similar. Try Again is going to be a little bit different, but then I don't have to rewrite any of these. The real, like, the meat that is different from what I did before is the no track, because before it was a given that I was going to date him. Now it is no longer a given. So the way that the flowchart works is if you say no, then you have the option to date nobody or to date somebody else. And if you choose to date nobody, then you go and do a bunch of solo activities. It's going to be the same, because there's hold hands or the lap sit. So they're going to be 2 solo activities that take about the same amount of time. And then after you do the 2 solo activities, there's going to be a what now? That's like, okay, I did the stuff by myself, but is this, like, but what now? Is this all my life is? And then there is the inferior beard ballet, which is what we're, that classic theater trope, the inferior beard ballet. Yeah, and that is sort of a montagey way to process the idea of dating in general when you're, like, just really not feeling it. And how even if you find the perfect person for you, like, you're going to date a lot of people, and some of them are going to be perfect for you and some of them are not going to be perfect for you. But either way, as somebody who is aromantic, asexual, you might meet somebody who is perfect for you, but that doesn't matter. So the inferior beard ballet is like the idea of all of the people who come into your life in a romantic situation and interacting with them and just, like, trying to make it work. And then there will be a scene afterward that's like, okay, I did that, what's the what is I'm still not interested. What does that mean? And then that scene leads back to the am I broken? And then we join up again with the yes track in Who's Gonna Tell Her. You choose whether it's going to be the partner, the sister, or the moderator, the other person. And now that they're not doing the moderation, it'll probably be like another character has popped up. I'm toying with the idea of it being the mountain lion. Because the mountain lion is probably gonna come back in a couple of ways. So you pick who's gonna tell her, and then if it was the solo, like if she wasn't dating anybody, she gets told, you're not broken, you're just like, this is your deal. And then we go into the finale, which is one final solo activity, and a little scene at the end that is like, this is really great. So again, I think that takes it. Wait, if you go to the solo activities, what now? Oh, inferior beard ballet into a scene. Am I broken? Try again, and then you do the loop again. And probably people will pick date somebody this time. That's kind of. I mean, they might say no again. They might say somebody else. They might say date him, but they probably aren't gonna pick no again and don't date anybody again. But yeah, am I broken? Try again. Yeah, back. Do the loop again. Okay. So we go from the second time around. You go from am I broken into the finale. Who's gonna tell her? What now? Finale. Yeah. That's my flow chart. Okay. Anyway, so then I just have that no track, and the finale, and it seems like a lot, but honestly, it's half as much as the show is going to be because there is a full repeat. I have 49 scenes here. It's a little different already because, I lost four scenes because I cut out one of the initial things after he said yes. There was going to be a section about flirting, but I didn't have time. Don't have time to do that. And she was already flirting with him, so decided that was unnecessary. So -4 is 45, and then we added a scene at the beginning, so 46 scenes ish that I have to write. And I have written 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7.5. Okay. So more than 10%. Great. Cool. There you go. That's where we're leaving it tonight. I'll pick up again tomorrow, hopefully for much more time. Okay. Bye. Goodbye bye. Goodbye bye bye.